control of the House in 2006 was that you had candidates not reaching in rural areas. This obviously addresses the suburbs. Do you think that you can get there with just these suburban members, or do you have to have some of those rural voters or rural seats that may in fact benefit from this tax bill?
Can you tell me a place that benefits from this tax bill? They don't pay state and local taxes. They don't have children going to school. They don't have teachers bringing supplies to school and losing their tax break for doing that in order to give tax breaks to the high end. They don't have families that have extraordinary medical expenses. I don't know where you're talking about. We are saying that in this election last week, suburban America spoke up, and the Republicans should hear that. No, we're going across the country with a better deal, better jobs, better pay, better future. And that includes not only bigger paychecks, but lowering costs to America's families. And we're saying we want to return to a place where if we're going to do tax reform, we're going to do it in a bipartisan way. I think that's a message that appeals across the country.
Before the compromise, but when they announced the Senate bill, state and local deductibility, the lowest state in the country in terms of how many taxpayers benefited from the state and local deduction was West Virginia at 17%. Utah was as high as 30%. It is across the country. And to tell 1/5 of your taxpayers that they are going to pay more, that's not tax reform to most Americans, rural, suburban, urban.
Senator McConnell this morning said he believes the women. He asked Judge Moore to step down. What impact do you think that has on the race in Alabama?
Well, I can't answer that. You'd have to ask the main players. I thought Moore never belonged in the Senate even before these allegations.
You got a case against him.
Yeah.
Schumer, you said most of the Democratic caucus members have spoken out against this bill. Can you speak to the members of your caucus that aren't speaking out against it?
I can't recall a one who hasn't said very negative things about the bill. Senator Heidkamp talked about how philosophically it's not what she believes in. She wants to help the middle class. Senator Manchin, very upset by the deficit. I don't know of a one.
So you're confident, both of you are confident?
My members make up their own minds. But the bill is so bad and so against American principles that the basic letter that 45 of us sent, I think the other three agree with those three principles. No tax breaks for the top 1%, don't blow a hole in the deficit, and don't do it through reconciliation.
If I just may return to your question about 05 and 06 and the cent that the leader was referring to, that cent springs from a below 40% rating for President Trump. And what you'll see now is fresh recruits coming forward, Democrats saying, I think I can win this in a difficult district, and retirements come. We get the fresh recruits, they get the retirements, and the A-team, who has the A-team. And these are not, in the House side, necessarily recruited by us. Many of these people are self-recruited. There are primaries in a number of these districts, and the people will choose. As the leader said in Alabama, it becomes a local, it's a local matter. But what we want to make clear is the differentiation between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to America's working families, and demonstrate that we do have a better deal, better jobs, better pay, better future. We feel very excited about what those prospects are, and put one good day in front of another. I have no doubt that we will have a great victory next year.
Republicans seem pretty confident they're going to have the votes to pass this in the House this week, the tax bill. So given that, your pleas may be falling on deaf ears. Where do you go?
Well, let's wait and see.
I don't. Let's see. And but
just today there were a whole list of members who hadn't committed. They do not have at this point Nancy Lane, but 218 commitments, because I'm counting from afar, the other side of the building.
But they only won the budget vote by 2 votes. Actually 4 votes, but 2 votes swung the other way. It fails. So it's good news and bad news. The bad news is for the American people, should this bill ever become law, and there's a whole road ahead in the Senate on that. the good news is that once people have voted for it, people pay attention to what is that. It takes it to a different level of awareness in the public mind, and that hopefully will help defeat the bill in the Senate. But in terms of America's future, they vote for this bill. There's a political price to pay, not because we're going to make them pay, but because their constituents are going to make them pay. And the Republican leadership is asking their members to walk the plank on a bill that may never become law, but has serious impact on their constituents. President Trump, it's hard for me to say those two words in a row. President Trump has imposed on the Congress to take votes that are not really in the public interest. And again, the American people are paying attention. And when they look up and pay attention, we want to be sure they know who's offering them a better deal.
On the health care bill, you were able to stop it with this overwhelming grassroots opposition, these rowdy town halls from Republican members. Have you seen the same amount of mobilization on this bill, or are you worried about that?
Well, it's starting. It's reaching that level. I would say the level of mobilization is reaching a very high level. And if you talk to people in the parades this weekend, people were saying, "Why are you raising my taxes?"
Yeah, it's out there, and they were part of some of the events that were held. Some didn't even have members of Congress there. The groups were having their own events across the country. And they're particularly concerned about the fundamental budget that is the predicate for this, about Medicare and Medicaid. But now the Republicans are talking about, the president is talking about eliminating the individual mandate as part of the tax bill. When you get anywhere near health issues, you explode the activism. But they're out there, they're doing their job. We, as you said, could not have won without them before, so making the public aware. They're doing that now. I feel very confident about the approach that they are taking in Republican districts.
It shows you what a pickle they're in. They even have to consider going back to health care, which was just very bad news for them, because this bill, they're tying themselves in a pretzel to try and meet deficit numbers, give tax breaks to the rich, and still try to protect the middle class. The loser in those three was the deficit and the middle class. The rich didn't lose anything. But it's happening out there.
Senator Schumer, on the next election that's closest to us, are Democrats now committed to going full in for Doug Jones in the Alabama Senate race?
It's an Alabama race, and they're running it. They're involved. If they ask us for things, we're going to try to help them, but it's an Alabama race, and the Jones campaign is running it on its own.
So the DCC is not going to get involved? The DCC is not going to get involved?
I answer. When they ask us for help, we'll do it, but it's been an Alabama race, period.
Senator, how can the party, on the one hand, be helpful to a really promising candidate, but at the same time not hand the opposition fodder by letting them say, well, this is National Democrats coming in?
Just answer that.
I just answered it. The bottom line is it's being run out of Alabama, by Alabama. He's raising tremendous money without any help from the Democratic organizations. Yeah, the amount of money that's come in even before the Moore scandals was enormous. He had more than 1,000 points of television on for the last 4 weeks. Moore's had none. So this campaign, it's sort of like Georgia 6 in this sense. We hope it'll have a different outcome. As good a job as they did was very difficult. But they're raising all the money they need.
Is there a Scott Brown similarity here? In 2010, obviously, a very blue state at a time, and Scott Brown actually won that seat despite the demography of that state. Is there a comparison here?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to. I would compare just what's happening around the country. The enthusiasm. We were both, Nancy was minority leader, I was head of the DSCC in 2005 and 6. You felt the same thing. For instance, while in southwestern Virginia, the ratios didn't change, the enthusiasm was not at a high level. It was much greater in the more suburban, swing, and Democratic areas. We felt the same thing then. We are getting, in 2005, we had lots of candidates, and we always got the best in the Senate. We pick them, and we always got the best candidate. We have gotten our best choice in every race so far. We wanted Jackie Rosen. We wanted Kirsten Sinema. We wanted Beto O'Rourke. So the similar